lipstick. So today I wanted to share with you guys who are really fair skinned some of the best foundations and foundation brands that I have found as far as making foundations light enough for us really pale girls. So I found, in my experience, there are a lot of brands that say that their foundations, their lightest foundations are porcelain when they're really not, and a lot of foundations kind of oxidize and get darker as you wear them throughout the day. I have waded through a lot of foundations because foundation is kind of my obsession. And I know it doesn't look like I'm super pale on camera, but as you can see, my face is actually quite a bit darker today than my chest, just because I'm wearing a lot of bronzer today that I did for a makeup tutorial. But if you're familiar with kind of like MAC, their range of foundation shades, I am an NW10, which is the lightest of the light. You can't get any lighter. They don't sell any lighter than that, and an NW15 is way too dark for me. So that's how pale I am. And the camera settings kind of throw that off a little bit, just because they are changed a little bit, so it looks a little bit more natural and lighting and what have you. But anyways, so that is what my actual color is, just so you know that and can relate. But I wanted to talk about some brands that really kind of nail it as far as their lightest shade in their color range. Some of these foundations that I'm going to actually show you, actually really just one, is a foundation I can't stand, but I think it would work great for people with oily skin. I am someone with really dry skin, but yet I'm acne prone. I have no oil whatsoever. I don't know where the acne comes from, but yeah. So most of these are kind of tailored to dry skin, but in the range you can get, like, you can choose between the dry skin formulation and the oily skin formulation. So there is quite a variety when it comes to these shades. So as you can see, I am actually a pink undertone. I have a relatively prominent pink undertone, so most of these have pink undertones. But if you go one shade up, you'll find the one in the yellow undertone. So I'll let you know once we get there. But first of all, like I was talking about before, I'm going to talk about the MAC foundation. Now MAC NW10 is my absolute favorite foundation because it's the only foundation I've ever found that matches me perfectly. This is the best color match for my face. Now, some people don't love this foundation because it is very full coverage and it's matte. So it's going to give you a completely blank canvas. You're going to have no dew to it, nothing like that. I don't mind that, and then on the days that I don't want the super matte finish, I just put MAC Strobe Cream underneath or a luminous primer, and you can totally have a dewiness with this foundation. I recommend MAC to everyone. It is my favorite makeup brand, and I just think their stuff is really reasonably priced. It's not like the tippy top of high end, but it's also not like, it's not like overly expensive, but yet it's not drugstore price. So I think they have a really great range of colors, and if you go to a MAC store, if you go to a Macy's counter or something like that, you can get matched and they will find your perfect shade for you. So that's what I love about them. So number one, that would be my first recommendation. The only other, I have two other non-drugstore foundations to mention. The other one is the Makeup Forever Ultra HD foundation. Now this one that I have here is in 110, and then it says equal sign R220. So this is the lightest of the pink shades, and it matches beautifully well. It actually is a little bit too pink, to be quite honest. Like, it's very salmony pink, but that kind of like throughout the day kind of melds with like your powders and stuff and goes down a little bit. So Makeup Forever though, in this foundation at least, has the widest range of foundation shades I've seen in a long time. Like, it's gonna be impossible not to find your shade in this, just because there's so many to pick from. And just pop into a Sephora or somewhere that sells Makeup Forever and just get your color match, and you will find a great match for this. So this does go very light. It's wonderful, great foundation. And the last kind of higher end foundation that I have to talk to you about is actually a powder foundation, and it is the Laura Geller Baked, Balanced, and Brightened Foundation in Porcelain. This actually, I don't actually use it as a full-on foundation like my only foundation. I actually use it more as like a setting powder because it gives me extra coverage over my acne-prone skin. And it's light enough where it doesn't change the color of my foundation underneath. I find that a lot of powders, like in the drugstore or even at higher end type of brands, if you get one that says it's like translucent or light or fair or whatever, if it's really not and has some color to it, it tends to change the look of my foundation and make it darker. So you gotta be really careful with powders as well. Not all translucent ones are translucent. I found that out when I bought a Physicians Formula powder that says it's translucent, but it's definitely not. It has color payoff to it and it's darker than I am. So you really have to be careful with powders too. But this one actually is so fair. You can see it on my finger there. It's so fair that it just blends in beautifully with my skin and gives me that extra coverage that I need over my acne scarring and marks and stuff like that. I'm sure that this would be absolutely beautiful on like no makeup kind of makeup days, when I just want to run out of the house. I just tend to shy away from the powder foundations just because I am dry skinned. I like to use them as a setting powder, but I do want to recommend this because it is so light and just so finely milled that it blends in just beautifully with your natural skin. So this is a great option. All of the other foundations I have to talk about today are drugstore. So I'm going to talk about my very favorite first, and that is the Revlon Photo Ready Foundation. This one is in, let's see, number 1 Ivory, and it's totally a porcelain. It's very, very light. It's actually a pink-based one. Ivory generally means pink-based, but if you go up one more shade, if you're more yellow or neutral-based, you'll find that matching. It's a little bit more yellow the next one up. But this actually runs light enough to actually be like an NW10. It's light enough to match my skin tone, which I love about this. And I raved about this foundation because it's just so pretty. It's got that gorgeous kind of like luminous finish to it. It's got some micro shimmer in it, so it bounces off the light. Looks beautiful in photos and in outside. So it's a gorgeous foundation. I definitely recommend that. Next up is a foundation that I also love, which is the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless, not Dewy Smooth. Weird thing about this foundation is that number 110 in the Fit Me Matte and Poreless is lighter than 110 in Dewy Smooth. I have both of them. I also have a video where I show this. Dewy Smooth is a tad darker for some odd reason, which means it doesn't match my skin tone. Matte and Poreless is the one that I have to get if I want a perfect match to my skin tone. And if I don't want the matte look, I just, like I said, with the MAC foundation, I just mix it with a luminizer, an illuminizing primer or something like that, like MAC Strobe Cream, what have you. And then it doesn't have to be matte. But I just want to point that out. For some strange reason, the Dewy Smooth line runs a touch darker than the Matte and Poreless line. So be careful when you're picking your colors. Next up, I'm going to talk about a Revlon foundation, which I love. This is the Revlon Color Stay Whipped Foundation. This is fantastic. You can see that it's super, super light in the package. It's kind of like a creamy consistency. I wouldn't really call it a mousse. It's a little bit more creamy. But it's absolutely gorgeous. It has beautiful coverage. It actually has kind of like a satin type of finish. Absolutely gorgeous, and this one is in number 110 Ivory, and it's a perfect like porcelain color. This one also runs pink, but if you go the next shade up, you will find the yellow alternative. But yeah, this is so great. I love that it runs light enough. Next up, I'm going to talk about 2 foundations that I am going to recommend for those who have oily skin. These do not work for me at all, but that is because I'm so dry. These 2 foundations I've heard people rave about who have oily skin. So I did want to mention them here because they do run really, really light. So they're going to be a great match for anyone with oily skin who's very pale. So the first one is actually the Revlon Color Stay 24-Hour Foundation, the liquid formulation. It's just not as hydrating. It's very drying. It's actually, because it's a 24-hour foundation, it's meant to kind of like adhere to your face. So that actually means it has kind of drying properties. So it's going to cling to any dry patches, and it's going to actually work to dry out your face. So like anyone who has oily skin, it's gonna help to absorb that oil so you don't have an oily face throughout the day. But if you're already dry, it's not a good one. But like I said, like the potted one here, number 110 Ivory does run very, very light. It's the perfect shade for anyone who is that kind of milk white. And the last one I'm going to mention is this other one that doesn't work for me. This is the Rimmel Stay Matte Foundation. This is number 10 Light Porcelain. This is totally like an NW10. It looks identical to it. It's light, super light. This is not going to be good for someone who's not quite an NW10. If you're like an NW15 or a little bit darker, NW20, this is not going to be good for you because you're going to look like a ghost if you put this on. This runs very light, but it's got lightweight shine control. It's going to be great for anyone with oily skin because it works to, it's a liquid mousse, so it works to, again, kind of dry out the oiliness. Not good for people with dry skin. But this is going to be great for anyone with oily skin who is very pale, like the complete white, milk white paleness. This is a great one. So those are all my foundations that I have to share with you guys today. I did want to mention one other thing before I go. So as you guys know, if you followed me for a while, you would know that this is not all the foundations I own. A lot of the foundations I own and absolutely love are ones that are a little bit too dark for me. So instead of just slapping those on my face and like having to drag it all the way down my neck and just be ridiculous, I actually lighten up those foundations with this Manic Panic Dream Tone foundation. It is a white foundation. It's actually called something like Vampire or something. Virgin Whitest White. So it's a white foundation, and I just mix it with my other foundations that I absolutely love. For example, like my Lancome Photogenic Luminescence foundation, it's just a bit too dark. I'm actually wearing it today. It's this one that doesn't match. I didn't mix it today, apparently, but I just mix a drop of this with my foundation on the back of my hand, and then it can match my face. This doesn't at all change the consistency of your foundations. It doesn't change the finish. It just makes it a little bit lighter, which is amazing. And you can get this on Amazon for super cheap. I think I got it for like $7. So I think this is a great alternative or a great solution if you have purchased foundations that you're just not using because they're too dark. Just get some of this and you can use up the foundations that you haven't been using. So yeah, I really hope that this video was helpful for all my pale girls and guys out there. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. I put out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And thank you again for watching. Have a great day.